This episode is brought to you by Squarespace.
Take a break from ordinary life and explore Fallout 4's Bostonian wonderland. Want history? Walk the historic Freedom Trail and take in the city's stunning monuments. Hungry? You're in luck. Boston is home to some of America's finest dining. And don't forget to pack a bathing suit and hiking boots. Once you're out of the bustling downtown, Boston is home to both scenic parks and a gorgeous waterfront. Whatever it is you're looking for, Fallout 4's Boston, Massachusetts is an ideal getaway for all of life's troubles.
When you put it in real-world terms, Fallout 4's setting doesn't exactly seem like the kind of place you want to hang out in, but plenty of players are happy to spend entire nights for weeks on end exploring it. That got me thinking, why is that? Why do ugly, dangerous places make such good video game settings? Wouldn't it make way more sense for us to want to play games that take us to, well, happier places? This isn't a new question. In his treatise Poetics, Aristotle identifies the concept of catharsis, which is a kind of emotional relief we feel after seeing characters suffer. Basically, Aristotle theorized that tragic stories were a way for audiences to vent their actual fears by experiencing them through the terrible situations that fictional characters often find themselves in. Dolf Zillmann's excitation transfer theory builds on this concept by explaining that the emotions that we feel as characters are wronged eventually turn into greater satisfaction when they overcome their troubles. From 1988's primitive wasteland to 2013's The Last of Us, video games love the post-apocalyptic setting because they give us a chance to rise above the destruction of our entire planet. Fallout 4 invites this kind of catharsis from the opening scene. The beginning of the game gives you front row seats to the obliteration of an idyllic suburban town. At first, you have it all. There's a loving spouse, your robot butler, a nice peaceful home. There's even a cute baby. Well, we can pretend it's a cute baby, but still, everything seems perfect. Then the air raid sirens go off and you watch the entire town being herded into a shelter. The last thing you see before getting locked in a vault are the mushroom clouds that start the apocalypse. A scene like this lets us see characters who live in a world just like ours. Kinda, going through the same sort of trauma that we subconsciously fear. It lets us project our fears onto a fictional situation and process them through the stories of fictional people. In Fallout 4, you level up in order to correct the tragedy of the opening scene and reunite with your lost son. The new house building mechanic even lets you physically rebuild what was lost, though granted your robot butler isn't ever quite the same again. So sure, Fallout's story is tragic, but it also gives us the tools to overcome that tragedy. Not every part of Fallout 4 is about loss, though. There's also the general ugliness and danger of the world itself, and a lot of times there's no narrative payoff for all of this unpleasantness. So what makes this so appealing? In The Paradox of Painful Art, philosopher Aaron Smuts tries to explain why audiences enjoy art that seems to be unpleasant without any other purpose aside from being, unpleasant. He suggests that we come to painful art to experience strong emotional reactions without putting ourselves in real danger. Aside from Smuts' theory, there's also the concept of hedonic reversal, which explains why we get pleasure from the things logic tells us we should want to avoid. Why do we eat hot peppers, or watch sad movies, or enjoy looking at photographs of destroyed buildings on the internet? Hedonic reversal theorizes that our brains actually enjoy pushing through the pain to find something worthwhile on the other side. We get pleasure from overcoming the logic of pain itself. So actually, maybe we don't like Fallout 4 despite its desolate ugliness, but actually because of it. No one actually wants to wind up in a nuclear post-apocalypse, but we fear that we will, and we're more than willing to sink hundreds of hours into a simulation that allows us to overcome that tragedy. The ugliness of Fallout can actually make us feel stronger as we push through its painful setting and find something beautiful in its piles of radioactive trash. So what do you think? Do you like games that take place in awful places, or do you wish that there were more chances to play games set on nice sunny beaches? Hash it out in the comments. And I would like to thank Squarespace, the sponsor of this episode. Squarespace helps to create websites, blogs, or online stores for you and your ideas. Websites look professionally designed regardless of skill level, no coding required. Try Squarespace at squarespace.com/gameshow for a special offer. Squarespace, build it beautiful. And if you like what you saw, please subscribe. I'll see you next week. Hey everybody, Jamin here from Game Show. So last week we talked about game goals and specifically what makes a good one. Let's see what you had to say. Drudenfuzz says, I was wondering about stuff like SimCity or pretty much every Sims game, which seems not to have a goal and can continue forever, which is a good description of those types of games. So sandboxes and games like them are these really interesting halfway cases. If you go back to Jesper Juhl, the Danish researcher I cited in the video, and his definition of valorization, you recall that different possible outcomes are assigned different values, which are a prerequisite for winning or losing. So take the Sims, for example. The Sims, they have values. Some of them are given by you, the player. Some of them they have inherently. Some of them are absolutely important and required. They have to go to the restroom, they have to eat to stay alive, they can earn money, they can fall in love, etc., etc. But these values do not add up to a condition where you win or lose. So it's interesting because you have both sides of the coin there in terms of you have goals that do matter and are important, but also don't matter in the grand scheme of things. So unless you trap your sim and it drowns in its own pee, that probably would be considered losing. Christian Hansen says, what about great games with very vague or undefined goals? He brings up the example of how you don't exactly know what you're doing in a game like Dark Souls and you set out blindly. But we still have the goal of killing the boss and ringing the bells, for example. And even though, even something that simple can be, a good goal. So anyway, let's run that through a litmus test and find out. If you remember, there are a couple different requirements that I'd outlined in the video for a good game goal. Challenge, Dark Souls most certainly has that. I don't need to tell you that any little bit. Choice, you have the option in terms of going in two directions and ringing one of the two bells in the game. It's also relevant. Dark Souls is relevant since beating the bosses require you to level up your character and master the swinging of the sword. Dark Souls also has engagement because it naturally guides you towards completing your goal. So I think Dark Souls goals as it were, are pretty commendable as far as these things go. Probably one of the many reasons why those games are so highly lauded, even if it leaves you in the dark about what you're supposed to be doing. But anyway, thanks so much for asking.